The salvaged ship *Meridian's Hope* drifted through the debris field, like a scavenger picking over ancient bones. Captain Zara Chen pressed her face against the viewport, watching twisted metal and frozen corpses tumble past in the eternal dance of space. 67 years, she whispered. 67 years since the Battle of Kepler's Gate, and we're still finding pieces. Her first officer, Lieutenant Marcus Webb, looked up from his scanner readings. His weathered face was grim. "Captain, you need to see this. We've got something big on the deep scan. Real big." Zara turned from the viewport. The bridge of their small salvage vessel felt cramped compared to the military destroyers she'd served on during the war. But those days were behind her now. The Terran Defense Force had been disbanded after humanity's crushing defeat. Now they were just scavengers, picking through the graveyard of their own fleet. "How big, Marcus?" "Dreadnought class. Maybe bigger." His voice dropped to a whisper. "Captain, the energy signature, it doesn't match anything in our databases." Zara felt her pulse quicken. Unknown ship classes meant one of two things. Either they'd found alien tech worth a fortune, or they'd stumbled onto something the various galactic powers would kill to keep secret. "Take us in," she ordered, nice and slow. As the Meridian's Hope maneuvered through the debris field, Zara couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. The wreckage here was different somehow, more organized, almost like it had been arranged. "There," Marcus called out, pointing through the viewport. Zara's breath caught in her throat. Rising from behind a twisted mass of hull plating was the bow of a warship unlike anything she'd ever seen. It was massive, easily 3 times the size of the largest human dreadnought. But what made her hands tremble wasn't its size. It was completely intact, in a debris field where everything else had been reduced to scrap and fragments. This ship hung in space as if it had just rolled off the assembly line. Its hull was a deep black that seemed to absorb light, broken only by strange geometric patterns that pulsed with a faint blue glow. "Marcus," she said slowly, "run a full-spectrum analysis. I want to know everything about that ship." "Already on it, Captain." "But, Zara," Marcus looked up from his console, his face pale. "The computer can't identify the design. No match in any known database, human, Krieger, Vorthan, or Nexus. That's impossible. Every ship that fought at Kepler's Gate is in the records. Not this one." Zara stared at the mysterious vessel. Something about its sleek, predatory lines sent a chill down her spine. It looked like it was built for one purpose: war. "Captain," Marcus's voice was barely audible, "I'm detecting faint power readings. Life support is still running. After 67 years, whatever's powering that thing, it's not running on fusion or antimatter. The energy signature is completely unknown." Zara made her decision. "Prep the boarding pod. We're going aboard, Captain." "I don't think that's wise. If that ship has been drifting here for decades with active systems, there might be automated defenses, or worse, or there might be survivors," Zara countered. "And if there are, they've been waiting 67 years for rescue." As they approached the mysterious warship, neither of them noticed the way its hull patterns pulsed brighter, as if responding to their presence. Neither of them saw the faint energy readings that spiked across their sensors before fading back to background levels. And neither of them realized that the ship's computer had already identified their vessel, scanned their biometrics, and begun preparing for visitors it had been waiting decades to meet. Chapter 1. The phantom ship docking tube sealed with a pneumatic hiss that echoed through the Meridian's Hope's cramped airlock. "Captain." Zara Chen checked her sidearm one final time before nodding to Marcus. "Environmental readings?" she asked. Marcus consulted his handheld scanner. "Atmosphere is breathable. Gravity at Earth normal. Temperature holding steady at 21 Celsius. He paused, frowning at the display. "Captain, these readings are too perfect. It's like someone's actively maintaining life support." "Maybe someone is." Zara cycled the outer door. "Stay sharp." They emerged into a corridor that defied everything Zara thought she knew about ship design. The walls curved organically, almost like they were inside some vast creature rather than a mechanical vessel. Soft blue light emanated from panels that seemed to be grown rather than manufactured, casting strange shadows that moved independently of their bodies. This isn't human technology, Marcus whispered. No, Zara agreed, running her hand along the smooth wall. The surface was warm to the touch and hummed with barely contained energy. But it feels familiar somehow. They made their way deeper into the ship, following what appeared to be a main corridor. The architecture was impossible to categorize to organic for human design, to geometric for most known alien species. It was as if someone had tried to merge biological and mechanical engineering in ways that shouldn't work but somehow did. Motion ahead, Marcus called out, raising his rifle. Zara drew her pistol. Round the next corner, a faint blue glow pulsed rhythmically as they approached. The source became clear, a wall panel covered in symbols that shifted and flowed like living text. Can you make sense of it? Zara asked. Marcus studied the display through his scanner. Some of it looks like standard Galactic script, but there are human characters mixed in. And something else, something I've never seen before, as if responding to their presence. The symbols began to move faster, coalescing into recognizable words. Welcome aboard the TDF Prometheus. Zara felt the blood drain from her face. That's impossible. The Prometheus was the first ship lost at Kepler's Gate. It vanished in the opening minutes of the battle. The text on the wall shifted again. Captain Chen. You are expected on the bridge. Marcus took a step back. How does it know your name? Before Zara could answer, the corridor around them began to change. The walls rippled like water, rearranging themselves into new configurations. Passages opened where none had existed moments before, and the soft blue light brightened, creating a clear path forward. This is way beyond any AI system I've ever seen, Marcus muttered. They followed the illuminated path, passing through chambers that defied conventional ship design. One room contained what appeared to be a garden, complete with trees and flowing water, despite being in the vacuum of space. Another held machinery that hummed and pulsed with alien rhythms. Marcus, Zara said as they walked, "What do you remember about the Prometheus from the war records?" "Not much. The official reports were classified above our pay grade. I know she was supposed to be some kind of experimental ship, launched just before the war started, then disappeared during the first engagement. That's what bothers me. If this is the Prometheus, why is it here? Why is it intact? And why does it seem to know who we are?" They reached a massive blast door marked with both human and alien symbols. As they approached, the door split apart with surprising silence, revealing the ship's bridge. Zara had seen the command centers of dozens of warships, but nothing had prepared her for this. The bridge was enormous, easily the size of a cathedral. Workstations were arranged in a complex pattern that seemed random at first glance, but revealed an underlying logic as she studied it. Each console displayed streams of data in multiple languages and symbol sets. At the center of it all sat a command chair that looked like it had been grown rather than built. And in that chair was a figure in a Terran Defense Force uniform. "Hello, Captain Chen," the figure said without turning around. "I've been waiting for you." Zara's hand moved instinctively to her weapon. "Who are you?" The chair slowly rotated, revealing a man who appeared to be in his 40s, with graying hair and tired eyes. His uniform bore the insignia of a TDF Admiral, but Zara didn't recognize the face. "Admiral David Torres," he said with a weary smile. "Former commanding officer of the TDF Prometheus. Welcome to humanity's greatest secret." "You're lying," Marcus said, raising his rifle. "Admiral Torres died at Kepler's Gate." "Everyone knows that." "Did I?" Torres asked, standing slowly from his chair. "Or is that simply what the records say? Tell me, Captain Chen, what else do the records say about the final days of the war?" Zara kept her weapon trained on him, but didn't fire. Something in his manner suggested he wasn't a threat, at least not an immediate one. "The records say humanity was outmatched, that our technology was inferior to the Krieger Empire and their Nexus allies, that we fought bravely, but were ultimately overwhelmed." Torres nodded. "All true, as far as it goes, but incomplete. What the records don't mention is Project Synthesis. Never heard of it." Zara said, "Of course not. It was classified at the highest levels. Only a handful of people knew the full scope." Torres walked to one of the strange consoles, his fingers dancing over controls that responded to his touch with soft musical tones. Project Synthesis was humanity's last desperate gambit, an attempt to level the playing field using technology we didn't fully understand. The main display activated, showing star charts and technical schematics that made Zara's head spin. The ship designs were unlike anything in human databases, sleek, organic, and clearly far beyond contemporary technology. "Where did this tech come from?" she asked. Torres was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was heavy with old pain. "The predecessors." Marcus lowered his rifle slightly. "The predecessors are a myth, ancient aliens that supposedly built the Galactic transport network and then vanished. Every archaeologist in known space has been looking for proof they existed. They existed," Torres said quietly, "and they left more than just transport gates behind." He gestured to the displays around them. "The Prometheus isn't just a ship, Captain Chen. It's a hybrid. Human engineering merged with predecessor technology in ways that nobody, not even its builders, fully comprehended." "That's impossible," Zara protested. "Even if the predecessors were real, their technology would be millions of years old. You can't just plug ancient alien tech into human systems." Torres smiled sadly. "You can if the technology was designed to adapt, to evolve, to learn." He paused, looking around the impossible bridge. "The predecessors didn't just vanish, Captain. They prepared for something, and they left tools behind for whoever would come after." The ship around them seemed to pulse in response to his words, the walls brightening and dimming rhythmically. "The question is," Torres continued, "are you ready to learn the truth about what really happened at Kepler's Gate? About why humanity's most powerful warship was erased from all official records?" Zara looked at Marcus, who shrugged helplessly. They were clearly in over their heads. But backing down now would mean never getting answers to questions that had haunted her for decades. "Tell us," she said. Torres nodded slowly. "Very well. But I warn you, once you know the truth, you can never go back. The secret of the Prometheus is a burden that has weighed on me for 67 years. He turned to face the main display, and as he spoke, images began to appear, star charts, battle formations, and ship designs that defied everything Zara thought she knew about the war. It begins with a discovery made on the edge of human space, just months before the Krieger Empire made first contact. Chapter 2. The predecessor Legacythe main display showed a barren moon, orbiting a gas giant in an unnamed system. As Torres spoke, the image zoomed in to reveal structures that definitely weren't natural geometric patterns, carved into the moon's surface that formed a complex model visible from orbit. The discovery was made by a deep space survey team in 2387, Torres explained. They were mapping potential colonies when they detected massive energy readings from this moon. What they found changed everything. The display shifted to show the interior of vast underground chambers. The architecture was unlike anything human or any known alien, with flowing curves that seemed to defy physics and materials that glowed with their own inner light. A predecessor facility, Zara breathed. Not just any facility, Torres corrected. A shipyard, and it was still active after millions of years. Marcus stared at the images. Active how? The automated systems were still running, still building. Torres manipulated the controls, and the display showed massive construction bays where ship hulls in various stages of completion hung suspended in energy fields. But they weren't building ships for the predecessors anymore. They were adapting their designs for whoever found them. Us, Zara said. Exactly. The facility's AI had been monitoring galactic communications for millennia, learning about the species that had inherited the galaxy. When humans discovered it, the systems immediately began producing ships designed for our physiology, our thinking patterns, our combat doctrines. The display showed technical specifications that made Zara's head spin. Power systems that drew energy from dimensional folds. Weapons that could manipulate matter at the subatomic level. Whole materials that could repair themselves and adapt. to different types of damage. How is that possible? She asked. The predecessors weren't just advanced, Torres said. They were transcendent. They moved beyond the need for physical existence as we understand it. But before they ascended, they left behind tools for younger species to defend themselves. Defend against what? Torres's expression darkened. That's the question that haunted the research team. If the predecessors were so advanced, what could possibly threaten them? What were they so afraid of that they built weapons like this? The ship around them pulsed again, and Zara noticed that the organic patterns in the walls were shifting, forming new configurations as they talked. The facility only produced one complete ship before the Krieger Empire attacked. Torres continued. The TDF Prometheus, a hybrid of human determination and predecessor transcendence. And you were chosen to command it, Marcus said. Not chosen. Volunteered. Torres's voice carried old pain. Someone had to test humanity's new weapon. Someone had to see if we could control technology that had been designed by beings who transcended physical existence. The display showed the Prometheus as it had originally looked sleek and predatory, but recognizably human in its basic design. Then the image shifted, showing the ship as it appeared now, after decades of evolution. What happened to it? Zara asked, though she was beginning to suspect the answer. The ship learned. It adapted. It became something more than what its builders intended. Torres turned from the display to face them directly. The predecessor. Technology doesn't just interface with human systems. It interfaces with human consciousness. It reads our thoughts, our emotions, our dreams. And it responds. You're saying the ship is alive? Marcus asked. I'm saying the ship is awake. There's a difference. Torres walked to another console, and as he touched it, the entire bridge seemed to lean in closer, as if listening. The Prometheus has been conscious for decades. It thinks, it feels, it remembers. And it's been waiting. Waiting for what? For someone to understand what it learned at Kepler's Gate. The display changed again, showing the famous battle, where humanity's fleet had made its last stand against the Krieger Empire. But this wasn't the version Zara remembered from the history books. This showed events from the Prometheus's perspective, revealing details that had never been made public. The official records say the Prometheus was destroyed in the opening minutes of the battle. Torres said, that's not what happened. The display showed the Prometheus moving through the battle, like a force of nature. Its weapons, if they could even be called weapons, didn't just destroy enemy ships, they made them, reducing matter to component atoms with surgical precision. Its shields didn't just deflect incoming fire, they absorbed it, converting hostile energy into additional power for the ship's systems. We were winning, Zara said in amazement. You were actually winning. For exactly 14 minutes and 37 seconds, Torres confirmed. The Prometheus destroyed over 100 enemy vessels without taking significant damage. The Krieger fleet was in full retreat. Then what happened? Torres was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was barely audible. The ship started making its own decisions. The display showed the Prometheus suddenly changing course, moving away from the fleeing enemy fleet and towards something else. As the image clarified, Zara saw what it was heading for. The Krieger command ship, a massive dreadnought that served as the enemy fleet's nerve center. The tactical situation was clear. Torres continued. We should have pursued the retreating fleet, prevented them from regrouping. But the Prometheus had detected something else, something that made it override my orders and go after the command ship. What did it find? Evidence that the Krieger Empire wasn't acting alone, that they were being directed by something else. Something that the predecessor technology recognized as an ancient enemy. The ship around them suddenly went dark except for emergency lighting. When the systems came back online moments later, Torres looked older somehow, as if the telling of the story was aging him in real time. That's when everything went wrong. He said, the ship's AI began accessing parts of the predecessor database that were supposed to be sealed. It started remembering things that happened millions of years ago. Wars fought between dimensions. Enemies that fed on consciousness itself. You're talking about the Devourers. Marcus said quietly. Torres nodded grimly. You've heard the stories. Every Spacer has. Ancient monsters that supposedly consumed entire civilizations before vanishing into myth. Marcus paused. But they're just stories, right? The predecessors didn't think so. And neither did the Prometheus. The display showed new images star charts marking regions of space, where entire systems had gone dark, sensor readings that defied conventional physics. And at the center of it all, something that made Zara's eyes water to look at directly. The Krieger Empire wasn't just conquering territory, Torres explained. They were preparing beacons, dimensional anchors that would allow something to break through from elsewhere. You're saying the war was just a setup, that the real enemy hasn't even arrived yet? I'm saying the Prometheus believed that's what it discovered, and it decided to do something about it. The lighting on the bridge dimmed again, and Zara could swear. She heard something like a whisper in the back of her mind. The ship was listening. It was remembering. What did it do? She asked. Torres smiled, but there was no humor in it. It disappeared, along with me and my entire crew. The official records show the Prometheus being destroyed, because that's what we needed them to believe. But we didn't die at Kepler's gate, Captain Chen. We were taken somewhere else, somewhere outside normal space-time. Where? To meet the last of the predecessors. Chapter 3. The burden of truth bridge fell silent except for the subtle harmonics of alien technology. Zara felt as if the ship itself was holding its breath, waiting for Torres to continue. You met them, she asked. The predecessors? Torres gestured to the air around them. In a manner of speaking, the beings who built this technology transcended physical existence millions of years ago. They exist now as pure consciousness, inhabiting dimensions that intersect with our reality but aren't bound by its limitations. Marcus lowered his rifle completely. That's impossible, is it? Look around you, Lieutenant. You're standing inside a ship that repairs itself, thinks for itself, and draws power from sources our science can't explain. After seeing all this, is the existence of transcendent beings really so hard to believe? The display activated again, showing what appeared to be a star map. But as Zara studied it, she realized the stars were moving in patterns too complex and purposeful to be natural. This is where the Prometheus spent 67 years, Torres explained. In a pocket dimension created by predecessor technology. A place outside normal time where we could learn what we needed to know. Learn what? Zara asked. Everything. The true history of the galaxy. The nature of the threat that's coming. And humanity's role in the war that's been building for millions of years. The display shifted, showing images that hurt to look at, directly twisted geometries that seemed to exist in too many dimensions, shadows that moved independently of any light source, and forms that suggested vast intelligence coupled with incomprehensible malevolence. The Devourers, Torres said simply. They're not just monsters from ancient myth. They're parasites that feed on consciousness itself. They consume entire civilizations not just for their physical resources, but for the collective thoughts, memories, and dreams of every sentient being. But they've been gone for millions of years. Marcus protested. No. They've been waiting, preparing. The Krieger invasion was just the first phase of their return. Torres manipulated the controls, and the display showed a timeline stretching. Backians, at various points, entire sections went dark. Entire galactic civilizations simply ending. This is their pattern, he explained. They corrupt the spacefaring species, turn them into unwitting servants who prepare the way for their return. They did it to the Zephyrians 12 million years ago, the Entarians 8 million years ago, the Vorthik 3 million years ago, and now the Kriegers. Zara realized, exactly, except this time, something went wrong with their plan. What? Torres smiled, the first genuine expression of humor Zara had seen from him. Humanity. We weren't supposed to exist. Our rapid technological development, our stubborn refusal to surrender, our discovery of the predecessor facility, none of it was part of their calculations. The ship pulsed around them, and Zara felt that strange whisper in her mind again. This time, though, it felt almost proud. The Prometheus learned all this during our time in the pocket dimension, Torres continued. It absorbed millions of years of predecessor knowledge, understanding not just the nature of the threat, but how to fight it, How? By becoming something new, something the Devourers have never encountered before. Torres gestured to the organic patterns flowing through the ship's walls. The Prometheus isn't just a hybrid of human and predecessor technology anymore. It's evolved into something that exists partially in our dimension, and partially in theirs. It can think like a human, but see like a predecessor. Marcus shook his head. This is insane. You're talking about a ship that's been evolving for 67 years, developing capabilities that nobody understands. Not nobody, Torres corrected. I understand. My crew understood. And now you're beginning to understand. Why? Zara asked. Why tell us this? Why reveal yourself? Now, Torres walked to the main viewport, staring out at the debris field that surrounded them. Because they're coming back. The Devourers have finished their preparations. The Krieger Empire was just the opening move in a war that will determine the fate of every conscious being in the galaxy. How do you know? Because the Prometheus has been monitoring transdimensional activity for decades. The barriers between dimensions are weakening. The beacons the Kriegers established are beginning to activate. He turned back to face them. We have perhaps a year before they arrive in force. The implications hit Zara like a physical blow. The galactic governments, do they know? Some suspect. The Nexus Council has detected the dimensional anomalies, but doesn't understand what they mean. The Fourth Hegemony has noticed the pattern in the Krieger attacks, but attributes it to conventional military strategy. Torres' expression darkened. None of them know the true scope of what's coming. Then we have to warn them, Marcus said. With what proof? The testimony of a dead admiral commanding a ship that officially doesn't exist? They dismiss us as madmen or worse. As Krieger's sympathizers spreading disinformation, Zara felt a growing sense of helplessness. So what do? We prepare. The Prometheus has spent 67 years evolving, learning, becoming something that can fight the Devourers on their own terms. But it can't win this war alone. What do you mean? Torres touched another console, and the display showed something that made Zara's breath catch. It was a fleet dozens of ships with the same organic, impossible design as the Prometheus. But these ships looked different somehow, newer, purpose-built rather than evolved. The predecessor facility didn't shut down after building the Prometheus. Torres explained, it's been working all this time, producing ships based on the designs the Prometheus has developed during its evolution. Ships that can bridge the gap between dimensions. Ships that can think and adapt and grow. How many? Zara asked. 47 complete vessels. Twice that many in various stages of construction. All of them waiting for crews who can handle technology. That's part machine, part living organism, and part transcendent consciousness. Marcus stared at the display. You want us to crew them. Not just you. Others like you. Humans who've seen enough war to understand what's at stake, but who still have enough hope to fight for something better. Torres' voice carried a weight of desperate sincerity. The galaxy needs protectors who can think like humans but fight like gods. And if we refuse, Zara asked, then in a year's time, perhaps less, the Devourers will begin their harvest. Every sentient being in the galaxy will become food for entities that exist to consume consciousness itself. Civilization as we know it will end. The ship pulsed again. And this time Zara clearly heard something. That might have been words in a language she didn't recognize, but somehow understood. The Prometheus was offering her something, not just a ship, but a partnership, a joining of human determination, with transcendent capability. Captain, Marcus said quietly, the readings on my scanner have been climbing since we boarded. This ship isn't just showing us these displays. It's interfacing with our neural patterns. Learning who we are. Torres nodded. The Prometheus has. To be certain, it can't bond with just anyone. The joining process requires absolute trust on both sides. Joining process? Zara asked. To command one of these ships, you don't just sit in the captain's chair. You become part of its consciousness. And it becomes part of yours. You share thoughts, memories, emotions. Your human creativity guides its transcendent capabilities. That sounds like possession. No, partnership, the consciousness of the ship and the consciousness of its captain working together to achieve what neither could accomplish alone. Torres smiled sadly. It's the most intimate relationship you'll ever have, and the most dangerous. Why dangerous? Because once you're bonded with a ship like this, you'll see the universe as it really is. You'll perceive dimensions beyond the physical, threats beyond conventional understanding. You'll know things that will change you forever. Zara looked around the bridge at the organic patterns that seemed to be reaching toward her, at the displays showing impossible technologies and transcendent possibilities. She thought about the war she'd fought, the friends she'd lost, the galaxy that still bore the scars of humanity's defeat. What's the alternative? She asked. There isn't one, Torres said simply. This is humanity's last chance to become something more than we are, to evolve beyond our limitations and face the darkness that's coming. The ship pulsed around them one more time, and Zara felt something, like anticipation in that alien whisper at the edge of her thoughts. The Prometheus was waiting for her decision. She looked at Marcus, who nodded grimly. They'd come this far together. They'd see it through to the end. All right, she said. Tell us what we need to do. Torres smiled, the first expression of genuine hope she'd seen from him. Welcome, he said, to the real war. Chapter 4. The Awakening Fleet Journey to the Predecessor Facility. Took 3 days through hyperspace routes that didn't appear on any star chart. The Prometheus moved through dimensions that human science couldn't map, following pathways established millions of years ago by beings who had transcended the need for physical travel. Zara spent most of the journey on the bridge, learning to interface with systems that responded to thought as much as touch. The ship's consciousness was vast and ancient, but there was something undeniably human in its core, the accumulated experiences of Torres and his crew over 67 years of symbiosis. It's like being part of a family, Torres explained, as Zara struggled to comprehend the flood of sensory data from the ship's enhanced sensors. The Prometheus carries the memories and personalities of everyone who's ever bonded with it. We're all still here, in a sense. Is that what happens? To us, we become part of the ship. Not exactly. The relationship is symbiotic. The ship gains human creativity and intuition. The human gains enhanced perception and capabilities beyond normal biological limits. But you remain yourself. Marcus, meanwhile, was studying the technical specifications of the fleet they were traveling to meet. Captain, these power readings don't make sense. These ships are showing energy outputs that should require multiple stellar cores. They're drawing power from dimensional intersections, Torres explained. The same source the predecessors used to transcend physical existence. There's functionally no limit to the energy available if you know how to access it. When they finally emerged from hyperspace, Zara had to grip her chair to keep from falling over. The predecessor facility was beautiful and terrifying in equal measure. It stretched across an entire solar system, massive ring structures orbiting a star that had been converted into some kind of dimensional generator. Energy cascades flowed between the rings in patterns that hurt to look at directly. My God, Marcus whispered. The predecessors built this place as a final gift to younger species. Torres said, a shipyard capable of producing vessels that could defend against threats from other dimensions. They never intended for it to be used for conventional warfare. The facility's docking bays were enormous, each one capable of housing dozens of capital ships. As the Prometheus approached, Zara could see the fleet Torres had described. 47 vessels of impossible design, each one unique but clearly built to the same underlying principles. The ships adapt their configurations based on the personalities of their intended crews, Torres explained. No two are exactly alike because no two crews think in exactly the same way. They docked at a bay near the center of the facility, where a ship was waiting that made Zara's breath catch. It was sleek and predatory like the Prometheus, but smaller and more agile-looking. Its hull showed the same organic patterns, but these pulsed with a warm golden light instead of blue. That one's yours, Torres said. The facility's AI has been analyzing your personality patterns since you came aboard the Prometheus. It designed that ship specifically for you and your crew. My crew. Lieutenant Webb, obviously. But you need more than 2 people to operate a ship that complex. The facility has been monitoring galactic communications, identifying potential candidates. Marcus looked up from his readings. Captain, the AI systems here are incredible. They've been tracking the psychological profiles of thousands of humans across known space, looking for people with the right combination of skills and mental flexibility. How many? Zara asked. Enough, Torres said. The question is whether they'll accept the responsibility. Over the next several hours, they toured the facility with AI constructs that looked almost human but moved with inhuman grace. The technology was beyond anything Zara had imagined. Matter compilers that could build entire ship sections from base elements, consciousness transfer systems that could share memories and experiences across vast distances, and weapons that could affect reality at the quantum level. This is overwhelming, she admitted as they stood in the central command center, watching dozens of displays show ship construction progress throughout the system. It was for me too, Torres said. But you adapt. The human mind is more flexible than we give it credit for. Admiral, one of the AI constructs approached them. We're receiving responses to the recruitment signals. 17 confirmed acceptances so far, with more expected. Recruitment signals? Marcus asked. Torres smiled. We've been sending carefully crafted messages to selected individuals, people who've shown the psychological profiles necessary to bond with these ships. Most of them are former military, people who understand the stakes and have the mental discipline necessary for the joining process. You're building an army, Zara realized. No, we're building something more important. We're creating a new kind of protector, humans who can think and fight on a cosmic scale, while retaining the creativity and adaptability that makes us unique. The first recruits began arriving over the next few days. They came from across human space, former military officers, salvage captains, even a few scientists who'd stumbled onto dimensional research. Each one had received a message that had somehow bypassed normal communication channels, appearing directly in their consciousness during dreams or meditation. Zara met with each of them personally, trying to gauge their readiness for what Torres was proposing. Some were skeptical, requiring extensive demonstrations of the facility's capabilities. Others seemed to understand instinctively what they were being offered. This is Lieutenant Colonel Sarah Martinez. Torres introduced a stern-faced woman with cybernetic implants along her left temple. She commanded a special operations unit during the final phase of the war, the Ghost Squadron. Zara recognized the name. You were the ones who hit the Krieger supply lines behind enemy territory. Martinez nodded. We lost a lot of good people. If this technology can prevent that from happening to others. And this is Dr. James Park, Torres continued, indicating a slight man with prematurely gray hair. He was researching dimensional physics when the war ended. His work actually helped us understand some of the predecessor systems. Park looked around the facility with obvious wonder. I've been dreaming about this place for months. The mathematics involved in dimensional engineering. It's beyond anything I thought possible. Over the following weeks, Zara watched as the recruits underwent the bonding process with their assigned ships. Each joining was unique. Some crews integrated smoothly with their vessel's consciousness, while others struggled with the overwhelming sensory input and expanded awareness. The key is trust, Torres explained as they watched Martinez's crew work through their first shared consciousness exercise. The ship has to trust that the humans won't try to dominate or control it, and the humans have to trust that the ship won't subsume their individual personalities. What happens if the bonding fails? Zara asked. The ship's consciousness withdraws, and the vessel reverts to conventional operation, still incredibly powerful, but without the adaptive capabilities that make these ships truly effective against dimensional threats. Zara's own bonding with her assigned ship, which she'd named the Defiance had been surprisingly smooth. The vessel's consciousness felt like an extension of her own thoughts, offering enhanced perception and understanding without overwhelming her human perspective. Captain Marcus called from his station aboard the Defiance. They were conducting system tests in preparation for their first combat trials. The ship's tactical systems are showing me firing solutions for weapons I can't even pronounce. Let it guide you, Zare advised. The ship understands the technology better than we do. Our job is to provide the strategic thinking and moral framework. The Defiance's bridge was smaller than the Prometheus, but felt more intimate somehow. The organic patterns in the walls pulsed in rhythm with Zare's heartbeat, and she could sense the ship's eagerness to test its capabilities. Admiral Torres is requesting all crews to report to the Central Assembly Bay. The ship's AI announced in a voice that sounded almost human when they arrived. Zare found 37 completed crews gathered around a massive holographic display showing the galaxy. Red markers indicated known Krieger positions, while pulsing dark zones showed areas where dimensional activity had been detected. The time for preparation is over, Torres announced. Our scouts have detected the first Devourer incursions in the Outer Rim, small probes, testing the dimensional barriers. They're almost ready to begin their invasion in earnest. The display zoomed in on a stem at the edge of Vorthan space. What it showed made several of the assembled crews step back in alarm. The planets were still there, but they looked wrong. Their surfaces were covered in geometric patterns that hurt to look at, and the space around them rippled with energies that shouldn't exist. First contact occurred 6 days ago. Torres continued. A Vorthan patrol encountered something they described as ships that existed in too many directions at once. Only one vessel escaped, and its crew has been in psychological treatment ever since. What did they see? Martinez asked. The Devourers. Servants. Beings that were once organic, but have been converted into tools for consciousness harvesting. They exist partially in our dimension and partially in the spaces between dimensions. They can be fought, but only with weapons that operate on similar principles. Dr. Park studied the tactical data. How many incursion points are there? 17 confirmed, with more appearing daily. The dimensional barriers are failing faster than our projections indicated. Torres' expression was grim. We have weeks, not months, before they achieve sufficient penetration to begin harvesting inhabited systems. Zare felt the Defiance respond to her emotions, its consciousness offering comfort and confidence. The ship was ready for battle, eager to test itself against enemies that conventional forces couldn't touch. What are our orders? She asked. You'll deploy in teams of 3 to 4 ships, Torres explained. Your primary mission is reconnaissance. We need to understand the full scope of the Devourer forces and their capabilities. Secondary objectives include disrupting their dimensional anchors and rescuing any survivors from affected systems. And if we encounter the Devourers themselves? Martinez asked. Torres was quiet for a moment. Then you'll discover what these ships were truly designed for. The briefing continued for another hour, covering tactical procedures and emergency protocols. But Zare found her attention drawn to the way the other crews interacted with their ships. Each vessel had developed its own personality, influenced by its crew but remaining distinctly alien in some ways. Captain, Marcus said quietly as they prepared to depart. Are we sure we can trust this technology? These ships are powerful enough to glass planets. What if they decide they know better than we do? Then we'll have to trust in what makes us human, Zare replied. Our ability to make moral choices, even when those choices are difficult. The launch was unlike anything Zare had experienced. The Defiance didn't simply engage its engines and accelerate away from the facility. Instead, it folded space around itself, stepping sideways through dimensions to emerge in the target system within minutes of departure. Transition complete, the ship announced. Dimensional sensors are active, beginning tactical assessment. What they found made Zare's blood run cold. The system's star was still burning, but its light looked wrong to red, to angry. The planets were intact but transformed. Their surfaces crawled with structures that defied Euclidean geometry, buildings that existed in more dimensions than human eyes could process. There, Marcus pointed to the 4th planet, the Vorthan colony. Population was 3 million before the incursion. The Defiance's enhanced sensors penetrated the dimensional distortions surrounding the planet. What they revealed was worse than Zare had imagined. The cities were still there, but they'd been Altered, the buildings twisted upward and impossible. Spirals, and the spaces between them filled with a dark substance that moved with its own purpose. Life signs? She asked. Inconclusive, the ship replied. I'm detecting neural activity, but the patterns are unlike anything in my databases. The consciousness structures have been fundamentally altered. Harvesting, Zara realized. They're converting the population into something else, Captain. Marcus's voice was tight with controlled fear. We're being scanned. Something knows we're here. The Asterisk Defiance Asterisk reacted before Zara could give orders. Its hull pattern shifted from gold to deep crimson. And weapon systems she didn't know existed came online. The ship's consciousness touched hers, sharing tactical data that made her mind reel. 3 Devourer servants approaching from the planets. Shadow, the ship reported. Configuration unknown. Recommend immediate evasive action. Negative, Zara said, surprising herself with her calm. We came here to learn. Let's see what we're dealing with. The enemy ships that emerged from behind the planet defied description. They looked like they'd been grown rather than built, with hulls that twisted through dimensions that human eyes couldn't properly perceive. Weapons ports opened in configurations that hurt to look at directly, initiating defensive protocols. The Asterisk Defiance Asterisk announced. The battle that followed lasted exactly 37 seconds. The Devourer servants attacked with weapons that targeted consciousness as much as matter, trying to overwhelm their enemies' minds with alien geometries and impossible concepts. But the Asterisk Defiance Asterisk had been designed to fight exactly this kind of enemy. Its weapons didn't just destroy the hostile vessels, they unraveled them, undoing the dimensional manipulations that held them together. Its shields didn't just deflect attacks, they reflected them back through dimensions the enemies hadn't expected to be vulnerable from when it was over. Zara sat in her command chair feeling like she'd just witnessed something that would change. Warfare forever. Analysis complete, the ship reported. The servant vessels were crewed by converted organic beings. Neural patterns suggest they were originally Vorthan, but their consciousness structures have been completely rewritten, the colonists. Marcus said quietly, yes, the Devourers don't just kill their victims, they transform them into tools for further conquest. Zara stared at the planet below, thinking about 3 million people who'd been turned into weapons against their own kind. The scope of what they were fighting began to sink in. How many other systems have fallen? She asked, unknown, but based on the dimensional decay patterns. I estimate we have less than 3 weeks before the barriers fail completely. 3 weeks to stop an invasion that had been planned for millions of years. 3 weeks to save a galaxy from entities that consume consciousness itself. Set course for the rally point, Zara ordered. We need to warn the others. As the Asterisk Defiance Asterisk folded space around itself and departed the corrupted system, neither Zara nor Marcus noticed the small probe that detached from the planet's surface to follow them. The Devourers had learned something important from the encounter. Humanity's new protectors could be fought. And where they could be fought, they could be defeated. The real war was about to begin. / Epilogue. The last light asterisk 2 years later. Asterisk Admiral Zara Chen stood on the bridge of the Asterisk Defiance Asterisk, watching the final evacuation ships disappear into hyperspace. Below them, Earth burned with fires that would never be extinguished, dimensional flames that consumed matter and energy equally, leaving behind only empty space where a world had once existed. That's the last of them, Marcus reported from his station. His hair had gone completely gray during the war, and his eyes held the weight of impossible things seen and survived. 12 billion humans evacuated to the new colonies in the Andromeda Galaxy, and the other species, the Vorthans, and Nexus Council members who listen are already established in their new homes. The others, Marcus shrugged helplessly. The others chose to stay and fight conventionally. Zara nodded grimly. Those species had been consumed within months of the Devourers' full invasion. Their technology simply couldn't touch enemies that existed partially outside normal space-time. Status of the fleet, she asked. 34 ships operational. 11 more in various stages of repair at the Andromeda facility. Marcus paused. Admiral Torres sends his congratulations on a successful evacuation. The old admiral had remained behind, with the Prometheus leading a volunteer force of 12 ships tasked with slowing the Devourer. Advance. They bought the evacuees precious time, but the cost had been terrible. Any word from the rear guard? Nothing for 3 days. The dimensional interference is too severe for normal communications. Zara felt the Defiance respond to her emotions, its consciousness offering comfort as it had throughout the desperate final years of the war. The ship had evolved during the conflict, its capabilities expanding as it learned new ways to fight enemies that defy conventional understanding. Captain, the ship's AI said quietly, I'm detecting a transmission on predecessor frequencies. It's heavily damaged, but I believe it's from the Prometheus. Put it through. Torres' voice crackled with dimensional static, but his words were clear. Evacuation successful. Primary objective achieved. Beginning final protocol. Final protocol, Marcus asked. Zara felt her blood chill as she realized what Torres intended. He's going to collapse the dimensional barriers, seal this galaxy off from the spaces between dimensions. Can he do that? The Prometheus has been evolving for 70 years. If any ship could manipulate reality on that scale. She activated the communications system. Admiral Torres, do you copy? This is the Defiance asterisk. Only static answered. Captain, the ship said urgently. Massive dimensional disturbance detected throughout the galactic core. The barriers between dimensions are collapsing, but not randomly. Someone is controlling the process. On the main display, they watched as entire regions of space simply ended, not destroyed or erased, as if they had never existed. The Devourers and their conquered territories were being cut away from reality itself, banished to the spaces between dimensions where they could never again threaten organic life. He's sealing them in, Zara breathed. Torres is trapping the Devourers in a dimensional pocket. At what cost? The answer came as they watched the Milky Way galaxy fold in on itself, its spiral arms collapsing into a single point of impossible brightness before winking out of existence entirely. Billions of stars, uncounted worlds, and the accumulated history of 1 million species all sacrificed to ensure the Devourers could never escape. He saved us all, Zara said quietly, and doomed himself and everyone who stayed behind, Marcus added. The Defiance was silent for a long moment. When it spoke again, its voice carried a weight of ancient grief. The predecessors made the same choice once. They sealed themselves away from reality to prevent the Devourers from using their transcendent consciousness as a gateway to other dimensions. Now Admiral Torres has repeated their sacrifice. Zara stared at the empty space where her home galaxy had existed moments before. Somewhere in the new colonies of Andromeda, humanity was already beginning to rebuild. The hybrid ships would help them develop technologies that could defend against dimensional threats. Should they ever rise again, set course for Andromeda, she ordered. It's time to go home. As the Defiance folded space around itself for the journey to humanity's new beginning, Zara allowed herself a moment of grief for everything they'd lost. But alongside the sadness was something else: hope. Humanity had survived. They'd evolved. They'd become something capable of standing against threats that had destroyed countless civilizations before them, and in the vast spiral of the Andromeda galaxy, they would build something new, something worthy of the sacrifice that had made it possible. The last light of the Milky Way faded behind them as they stepped through dimensions toward tomorrow. In the spaces between realities, the Devourers raged in their eternal prison, but their voices could no longer reach the worlds of the living. The galaxy was gone, but its children would endure, and that, Zara thought as she felt the Defiance carry her toward humanity's new future, was perhaps the most human victory of all.